my name is Jess and I'm going to build a house very soon in Sydney, Australia, and I just wanted to document the process and how much it costs, because I've noticed on YouTube that a lot of people pretty much show the final moving in process, but they actually don't show you the knockdown stage and also what they spend. So I think it'll be really interesting to have a look at what people spend on their houses and what that includes. I think a good question to start off is, who are we building with and what design? We're building with JJ Gardner Durrell, and they're a small franchise. We chose the design Kensington 271 plus a granny flat at the back with 2 bedrooms. Why do we pick JJ Gardner Durrell? So they actually have a Facebook group run by someone who's built with them, and I've looked at pretty much every post and everyone had quite positive reviews. Obviously there's some bad ones here and there, but for the amount of people who's actually on that page and the reviews on it, JJ Gardner as a whole seem quite positive. Another reason why we chose them is because they're quite a small franchise. They've only got 5 people working there. 2 of them are managing directors, 2 in administration, and then 1 sales girl who I dealt with. And everyone there is quite knowledgeable on the product. And something that I found with small franchise is they're more willing to bend over backwards, and you don't actually have to explain yourself too much. So what that means is, if you have larger organizations that you go with, like Clarendon or Rawson, they have a huge team. So you will speak to multiple people and you will just not be heard. That's what I've noticed. I think with bigger companies, they're actually all employees. So what that means is they pretty much just go there, make a wage, and then pretty much go home. They don't really care. JJ Gardner, the 2 managing directors are actually owners, so I think from a brand perspective, they would actually be more concerned about customer satisfaction, and they'll be more willing to bend over backwards. JJ Gardner also allowed us to build the granny flat first, move into that, and then demolish the main dwelling. Other companies wanted to do it all at once because they pretty much just want to go in and out. They don't want to stay too long. Unfortunately, they are more on the expensive side. I would actually compare them to a custom build. They have a lot of plans on their website which you choose from, but you're allowed 2 revisions for free, so you can change it as much as you want and you can customize it as much as you want. The plans are there to give you inspiration, but you can pretty much customize anything and everything, but obviously that comes with a cost. So JJ Gardner was more on the expensive side, but because this is our family home, we don't mind spending a bit of money, but in saying that, we are on a budget. Another question is, what stage are we in? So we're in the administration phase, so that's just right before DA. So what we've completed so far is all the soil testing and contouring. All the plans are finalized. The bank's approved our construction loan. We have had our first kitchen and wardrobe configurations. We're just waiting for them to provide the draft with us, and I'll share that with you too. We've had our color selections for roof and brick. So a big tip for your color selection is, when you finalize a color choice that you like, ask them for a list of addresses that actually use the same bricks. So what we've done is, with those addresses, we've either Google Maps it or we've driven to that actual house and had a look at what the color looks like on a larger scale, not just on a single brick or a single tile. Also, another thing to consider is the time of day you go look at it. If it's a sunny day, it tends to be lighter. On darker days, the colors of the bricks seem to be darker as well. I think another thing to consider when you look at these houses is, if they're newly built, the tiles obviously look nice. They're not covered in that green stuff on tiles. They don't have any dust on it, so obviously it looks nice. So you should actually ask your color consultant to send you a list of previous builds, maybe like 5 years old, and have a look what it looks like after there's sun damage, maybe a bit of moss grows on it, and see if you still like it then. So pretty much that's where we're at. We haven't got DA approval yet. It hasn't been submitted. We're just waiting for a draftsman to finalize the plans and send it to DA, and hopefully after that we can do the fun part. Something else I think people would like to know is what we've paid before construction's even started, and this stuff is all outside of the tender. So I'll share with you the tender later, but these are all excluding tender price. So first off, we paid 1.2k to get some trees lopped and the stump grinded. It was roughly 4 to 5 trees. It was a year ago, so I don't remember really well. But a tip here is that our council provides free mulching. So if you need mulch for your house and you're doing some tree lopping, you can actually ask the council to mulch it for you, and they'll provide it back to you in bags. Another thing to keep costs low if you're cutting trees down is to ask them to cut it down, but leave the cleanup for yourself. So what we've done is we've got a handsaw and then cut every branch and tied it up, and then booked a council cleanup for it to be removed. But that's how you keep costs low. Another thing we paid for is $4,000 for the site-specific concept plans. So that's to GJ Gardner, and that 4k would be deducted off your final tender price. And what it includes is site classification from a licensed soil technician, contour plan or identification survey plan from a licensed surveyor. So 4k for pretty much soil testing, and then site contouring and plans that are site specific. We also paid around $40 for a Sydney water diagram. So underneath the property at the moment, there's a sewage that runs through the middle. We needed to know where it was so we didn't build on top of it, because if you build on top of a sewage line, you'll have to encase it because it's a huge house sitting on top of it, and that's really expensive. So we need to know exactly where it is so we can not build on top of it. That plan was $40, and that was a waste of money because that plan only showed you a line of where it's at. It didn't actually provide us with a specific location. So we needed to pay an additional $770 for a sewer pegging. So pretty much to find out exactly where the sewer is. And we had to move the granny flat further back to the rear fencing so we didn't sit on top of it. We also paid around $130 for 10.7 certificate, and that's a necessity. So what it is a certificate provides basic town planning information like zoning and how you can use the land in accordance to local and state government policies, which I think is a money-making scheme, but that's my opinion. Another thing we paid for is a lawyer to look over the tender, which was $550. Something that she did mention is that you should always negotiate a longer payment term with your bank. So what that means is when your builder provides you with an invoice, they usually have a terms and conditions in your tender that says the bank will pay the builder within 5 days. You should always negotiate that longer, because if for some reason the bank can't pay them within 5 days, I think there's a dishonest fee and you're supposed to pay that. Another thing that the lawyer mentioned is you should always negotiate the liquidated damages. So what that means is, for whatever reason the builder's delayed on the process and they haven't handed your house over on handover day, you are eligible for liquidated damages, and ours is $90 per working day. But if you are going out to rent a house or an apartment, or you need some storage cage, you should always negotiate that high, because you shouldn't be paying to rent if it's not your fault that the build is delayed. Another thing we've paid for is a brand new rear fence and a side fence as well. So that's around 7.8k, quite expensive, but our land is quite long, so there was a lot of fencing that needed to be done. I'll also talk about some items that isn't included in the tender, but we haven't paid for yet. So first one is demo. It's gonna cost roughly 21 grand. We also have to pay $150 to AGL to disconnect the gas. Another thing that's quite significant is after your build is completed, you actually have to pay council 1 to 2% of your build price. So ours is roughly around 14 grand. Another thing that I was not expecting is something called BASIX. And what BASIC is it basically wants you to be more energy efficient. So any brand new houses that are built, they want you to also include fans, so you're not always turning on the air conditioning. They also want you to have more insulation, so when it's summer, it's not going to be as hot, and in turn, you won't have to turn your fan or air conditioning. They also want us to install an internal laundry line. So what that means is if it's raining, they don't want you to use your dryer. So if you have an internal laundry line, you'll be more inclined to use it. And because I'm Asian, I already use it. I don't actually have a dryer at home. Another thing that's the most expensive part of BASIX is we included quite large windows, and windows actually absorb heat. To double glaze the main house, it's around 13,000, and to double glaze the granny flat, that's 5.7 grand. But in total for BASIX, with all the ceiling insulation, the insulation buttons, the ceiling fans, it's going to cost us 27 grand for BASIX. So that's something you actually have to look out for. If you like big windows, it's going to cost you a whole heap. Another option that our builder supplied us with is you can e-tint the windows. So it's basically got a green film, but we don't think it looks very nice. And that's definitely a lot cheaper. If you went with the third option of the e-tinting, the whole BASIX cost is only around 14,000.